against Virtus Pro because I think everyone wants to see Game 3 here.
Yeah, I would love Game 3 for fantasy points alone.
There, now you're really thinking.
No, I messed up. I didn't do my fantasy.
Lyrical. Come on now.
My bad.
Well, whilst he sucks, let's go over to 3 men that don't suck too much.
Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here. My name's Tsunami, and I'm joined by 2 men whose streams you've probably fallen asleep to. It's Cinder and Purge. It's a pleasure to be here. We are bringing back the draft panel. It's been a long time coming, but we don't really trust.
Virtus Pro had a really slow start, which is kind of unusual, I want to say. Generally, when we've seen VP in big tournaments, they come in really hot, and then they get cold when it gets crunch time for main events. This time around, they've had to struggle through the groups, which could end up being helpful for them, getting this experience of learning from losses. We've seen plenty of times in previous tournaments that teams that start up losing and regain momentum suddenly go really far. OG barely got 4th in groups last year. They end up winning the whole thing. We've had plenty of tournaments with teams like Evil Geniuses with slow starts.
Yeah, I think what's important is that the teams that ultimately want to win TIs, they do what they think is best. They don't try to follow the meta, and I think VP is a lineup that is doing that, even though they had that rough start. One thing that I thought was really interesting about looking over their past drafts is the one hero that they didn't pick or ban the whole group stage was Ogre Magi, which is mind-blowing considering the fact that almost every other team prioritizes it as like the 3rd or 4th best hero, ideally as offlane, sometimes as support. So that's something that could be really interesting going into the draft.
He's been the hero of the tournament, and for Virtus Pro, they seem to be favoring a little bit more of this like Shadow Demon support type thing, as we should see the draft beginning shortly. LGD versus VP, Game 1. It is a best of 3 in this upper bracket. We're going to start taking a look at the heroes.
They're jumping into it pretty quick. No Ogre ban or pick. Enchantress was definitely one of the most important heroes for everybody here. VP ended up banning that in the first stage. In the first 2 picks, we have a Silencer Earthshaker for Virtus Pro, and for LGD, we have a Rubik and a Tidehunter.
Silencer first phase, Cinderin.
Yeah.
What is all this happening?
I love this hero. And I think Solo has a very good understanding of how to play it in lane. Silencer was a hero going into this tournament that I thought teams were in general going to rate higher than they have, but VP was definitely one of the top teams that I would be looking to pick this hero more than others. Simply, even the possibility of running it core, which I don't know if we've seen them do, but when you pick it this early, it can even be a flex pick. Silencer has a lot of good matchups in mid, and overall, just this first phase in general for both teams is super team fight heavy. So I think both teams are coming in with this plan that, all right, the way we're going to be playing this first game of the main event will be centered around taking really good team fight executions. And yeah, Silencer breaks that up really nicely.
It'll help a lot against the Rubik and the Tide for sure, because then if you do start an engagement, at least in the first or early part of the game, you can prevent some steals, you can make sure that the Ravage comes late or something like that.
Yeah, the potential for the team fight seems to be a very conservative way to enter a high-stakes event like this, because everyone always says, you know, like, oh, your laning phase may not matter, you know, the late game may not matter, it just matters about your initiation and your team fight execution. They've got the initiation set up as well on Virtus Pro with the Earthshaker, a hero that we've been seeing also in a variety of roles. We saw some Miracle Earthshaker in the group stage. Obviously, we saw Tim's crushing it on the Earthshaker. This is a hero that has a flex potential, but is always great at initiation.
The other heroes to pay attention to, not necessarily just in this game, but the top 3 supports right now are